Sate vibhutir naparam tvam tesham ashisha isha tad anu vinashyanti yatha rajakulam Vishaya Trisho Narapashvo Ya Upasate Vibhutir Naparam Tvam Tesham Ashisha Isha Tadanu Vishayanti Yatara Jakulam Vishaya Trisho Narapashavo Ya Upasate Vibhutibir Naparam Tvam Tesham Ashisha Isha Tadanu Vishayanti Yatara Jakulam Vishaya Trisha, eager to enjoy sense gratification. Nara Pashava, men like animals. Yea, who? Upasate, worship very gorgeously. Vibhuti, small particles of the Supreme Lord. The demigods. Na, not. Param, the Supreme. Tvam, you. Tesham, of them. Ashisha, the benedictions. Isha, O Supreme Controller. Tat, them. the demigods. Anu, after. Vinashyanti, will be vanquished. Yata, just as. Rajakulam, those who are supported by the government when the government is finished. Translation. O Lord, O Supreme, unintelligent persons who thirst for sense enjoyment and who worship various demigods are no better than animals in the form of human life. Because of their animalistic propensities, they fail to worship your lordship, and instead they worship the insignificant demigods, who are but small sparks of your glory. With the destruction of the entire universe, including the demigods, the benedictions received from the demigods also vanish, just like the nobility when a king is no longer in power. Purport. Bhagavad Gita 2.7.20 says, Kamaistaister hritajnana prapadyante nyadevataha. Those whose minds are distorted by material desires surrender unto the demigods. Similarly, this verse condemns worship of the demigods. We may show our respect to the demigods, but the demigods are not worshipable. The intelligence of those who worship the demigods is lost, hritajnana, because these worshippers do not know that when the entire material cosmic manifestation is annihilated, the demigods, who are the departmental heads of that manifestation, will be vanquished. When the demigods are vanquished, the benedictions given by the demigods to unintelligent men will also be vanquished. Therefore, a devotee should not hanker to obtain material opulence by worshipping the demigods, but should engage in the service of the Lord, who will satisfy all his desires. Akama sarvakamo va mokshakama udaradhi. Tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. Whether full of all material desires, free from all material desires, or desiring liberation, a person who has broader intelligence must by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the personality of Godhead. Bhagavatam 2.3.10. This is the duty of a perfect human being. One who has the shape of a human being, but whose actions are nothing but those of an animal, is called Narapashu, or Dvipadapashu, a two-legged animal. A human being who is not interested in Krishna consciousness is condemned herewith as Narapashu. So here the Maharaj Chitraketu is bringing out this point, this basically speaking, what's not connected to the Lord is useless, no matter how seemingly beneficial it is. Because what's not connected to the Lord being temporary, all benefits gained from it will all be lost. That's guaranteed. Right? Even you get some great benediction from the demigods, when the demigods finished, your benediction's finished, because the potency is coming through them, but ultimately it comes from the Lord. So that portion that you gained from them, without recognizing the Lord, that's finished. While for the devotees, then, because they see everything connected to the Lord, the benefit they get is never lost. Right? So that's the idea, is that whatever there is, it's special because of its connection to Krishna. Right? Someone has material desires, that there is something to desire, that there is a desire for it, that there's seeming some benefit from it, that there's an experience from it. That's all coming from Krishna. We think it's coming from the dead matter, from the item itself. But factually, it's coming from Krishna. But not seeing Krishna, we take it that it is the item that we're focusing on. So if you still, the point is you want something, still is to turn to Krishna. It's not the best way to turn to Krishna, but it is reality. Right? That everything's coming from Krishna. So someone just wants something material, turns away, that's not real. Right? So a devotee wants material things, but doesn't want to ask Krishna. It's not more honest to go outside of Krishna consciousness and try to get it. Because the one is, oh, it's not good to ask Krishna for these things. Yes, it's true. But it's worse to not recognize Him and try to get it separately and think that you're getting it without Him. That's more insulting. Right? The other one is just, it's not that deep of a relationship. And the other one is no relationship at all. Right? For those who want liberation, then the same thing. The only one that can free you from the material energy is Krishna. No one else can. It's not by our endeavor, it's not by our austerities, it's not by our knowledge that we become free. It's just Krishna gives His blessing. You follow the path of Gyan nicely because Krishna gives that path, then pleasing Him in that way that you are accepting Him in that form as Brahman, as the rules of attaining Brahman, then being pleased with your effort, then one gets liberated. But it's by knowing the Lord that one gets liberated. And then finally, one who has no material desires, then at the same time you go to the Lord, because if you remove material desires, then what's left? All there is left is the Lord. And the living entity, having a nature of needing to, or being, having desires, having relationship, having interaction, then there must be, you must turn that to the Lord. So, in any case, whatever your position, the only actual honest position is worshiping the Lord, going to the Lord for that. Right? And so then within going to the Lord, in other words, there's material and then there's spiritual. So material is you don't see connection to the Lord. Spiritual is you see the connection. Now within spiritual, then there's gradations. Right? Spiritual mixed with karma, spiritual mixed with jnana, pure devotional service. Right? So we try for pure devotional service, but we keep ourselves engaged in devotional service even if it's mixed with karma and jnana. That's better than not being engaged in devotional service. But one should never mistake that this is okay. It's just like, let's say you have a cold or a fever and you're taking medicine. Is it okay to take the medicine? Now, what would you think of a person who started a philosophy that, no, this is the natural position. You know, we should all, why only I'm taking? Everybody should take. You understand? So the whole point is mixed devotional service, yes, is bona fide for someone who's in a position that's mixed. But remaining in that position, that's not bona fide, because that's not the nature of the soul. Even the soul on the Tatastha platform does not have any material desires. So to say it's natural to have all these desires, one would have to define natural. And Chitraketu Maharaj here gives a nice definition of natural. Dvipadapashu, two-legged animal. Right, so therefore, because even the two-legged animal comes from Krishna, therefore we engage the two-legged animal in Krishna's service. By that, the animal starts to go down, the two-legged starts to become a little more prominent. Right? Until we get to pure devotional service. Right? So that's the idea, is that we don't get distracted. With great determination and focus, always engage in the Lord's service, no matter what the position, but we also keep our eye on the ultimate goal. Because unless you know what the ultimate goal is, how you'll get it. Right? Does that make sense? Right. So that's the idea, is that when I perform an activity, I have to know the goal. Knowing the goal, I apply myself to that goal. And when then we are always going in that direction. Otherwise, if we don't know where the goal is, we don't know when we've gone off the track. Because as Prabhupada points out, if you just have a slightly, even half a degree off, it doesn't seem like much now. Sitting in your living room, sitting with friends, it seems, it's not so far off. But take that down the line a bit. Especially if you aim that at Goloka, and then, you can be quite far off. So that's why we have to be very careful. Is understand that whatever position we're in, we engage that in Krishna's service. So it's not about this end, it's about that end. We take it that it's my position and then my trajectory from here. No, it's Krishna and the trajectory towards Krishna. Because now let's say I'm off the path. But I make the trajectory towards Krishna. The more I progress, the closer I get to the proper path. Well, if I make it about myself, I start off and the trajectory's off because it's, has some mix of karma and jnana. It just gets farther and farther off as I go. You understand? So that's the whole point, is that when we start with ourselves, it's always weaker than if we start with Krishna. But starting with ourselves is a place to start, as long as we include Krishna. But we should know is that standard is it's about Krishna. Right? Krishna and ourselves, not ourselves and then add a little Krishna. Right? Does that make sense? We'll start there. Everybody's going to start there. It's just about ourselves, and then we add in a little bit of Krishna when we meet the devotee. But it should be, Krishna becomes more prominent till he is the prominence. And then we're trying to see how to adjust ourselves with Krishna. Right? In the beginning, we adjust Krishna around us. I have a full materialistic schedule. I meet the devotees. Okay, I can work in that I drop in, on Sunday or whenever it is. Like that. But with time, it's got to be, it's about Krishna, and then how can I fit into that? So it's a natural progression. So natural is to progress towards Krishna. Saying natural to be Dvipadapashu, yes, we start there, but it's not natural to remain there. And it would be definitely intellectually insulting to say that as a long-term thing is okay. One can't do that. One should not philosophize one's mundane attachments. One should recognize them. One should deal with them. Because we take the things, if I don't recognize them, I can do them. If I recognize them, I can't do them. But where does that concept come from? It's not a Vedic concept. Vedic concept is self-realization means realize where you're at and engage at that level. Because the Vedas do show how the body from all angles can be engaged. The mind, the intelligence, the ego. Right? Whatever you have, you can engage it. So unless you know what you have, how do you engage it? If you're an illusion about what it is, I'm material, but it's okay. How is it okay? If it's okay, then we should be able to explain how it's okay. Well, everybody's attached. Okay, how does that explain it? Yeah, okay, you made the fact, but how does that make it all right? You know what I'm saying? There's a pile of garbage in the middle of your living room. Someone asks, what's this pile of garbage? Well, there's garbage everywhere in the world. Okay, yeah, there is garbage everywhere, but why in your living room? So that's the idea, is that we recognize what it is. We see what is the weakness, but then that weakness becomes glorious only when it's connected to Krishna. It's not glorious on its own. On its own, it lacks glory. Right? We connect it to Krishna. Then its connection is what is good. And then by connecting it, then everything gets purified. Then everything works out. So we're talking about a materialist here that actually even recognizes that the demigods are doing everything. Right? The demigods run the sun, moon, and all this and that, and so they're worshiping the demigods for their work that's there, though they're not seeing the Supreme Lord behind that. So what would you say of a culture that doesn't even recognize the demigods? Right? You get up in the morning, you feel good, so it's a great day. You get up in the morning, you feel grumpy, it's not a good day. People, hey, good morning, what's so good about it? It's like, right? So that's the idea, is that we have to be able to appreciate that we are honest and realistic, but that means we're honest and realistic according to the description of the Shastra, description according to the Acharyas. That we know, I'm attached in this way, so now because that attachment comes from Krishna, I should connect it back to Krishna. And connecting it back to Krishna is perfect, but now it's perfect and not more perfect or most perfect because it's about myself. And then we're adding Krishna. Well, it's more perfect when it starts to become about Krishna. And when it's totally about Krishna, that's the best. So it doesn't change what you're dealing with. Right? That's the thing. We think it will change what I'm dealing with. It doesn't change. And we think because it doesn't change, I can remain attached. No, the attachment's the problem. The thing that we're attached to is not our problem. We're thinking, oh, it's the money, the position, the house, the this, the that. That's the real problem. That's not the problem at all. The real problem is our not seeing it in connection to Krishna. It's our attachment, not what we're attached to. So that's the problem. We think if I give up attachment, I give up the things that I'm attached to. No, you give up the idea that what I'm attached to is for me rather than for Krishna. So someone has a house. They're attached to their house. Okay, add Krishna to it. Okay, put a few pictures on the wall, do a little kirtan, cook a little prasad, and I think we've about covered it, right? Okay, now and again Vaishnavas pop in and you try to do your best, like that, point out where the fridge is that they can, like that. So we start there. So it's our attachment to the house. It's not the house that's the problem. Because as we become purified by connecting it to Krishna, then we start to see the house as Krishna's. And then we're the caretaker of the house. We take care of the house to see that it's nicely engaged in Krishna service. It takes care of the caretakers of the house and everything like that. So everything's taken care of. It's Krishna's rules that a grihastha takes care of the family. It's not the modern rules. It's kind of expected. Someone does it, it's great. But if someone doesn't do it, it's not great. But it's okay. That's how we have songs like, I say, a father's a rolling stone. Right? Because it's just this one guy out of the whole planet, his father's like that, so he wrote this song. No, it's a common thing. Not ideal. People won't say this is ideal. Oh yeah, that's a great father, right? But it's not an uncommon thing. Right? So, therefore, when the giving up of things, we do that whenever there's trouble. And so, whether we're a materialist and there's trouble, we give it up. Right? Whether we're into liberation and there's trouble, we give it up. But only the devotee, there's trouble, we don't give it up. Therefore, the house is there, and as now we start seeing it in connection more and more with Krishna, we'll also start to notice the burden that was always there. It didn't just show up when we became Krishna conscious. It was always there. Just we don't notice it. It's just like, let's say, Chintamani's disciple, Bilva Mangal Thakur. So now, was it a problem to, go in a storm, cross a river on a dead body, climb up creepers that you thought were creepers were actually snakes, just to see this girl because you felt like it? Now, would that have been a problem or not? Right? Slightly different scenario, would have been a very romantic environment, but in this scenario, it's showing out how much trouble one's willing to take, and one doesn't notice it because one is so covered by sense gratification. So, all the attachments we have, they're trouble. And they always were, always will be. What happens as we become Krishna conscious, we start to less and less see the item according to our sense gratification, and we start to notice the actual trouble it is. So then we start thinking, oh, I'm renounced, I give it up. Now, if it's not a recommended thing, of course you give it up. That's why we say you don't have to separately endeavor. It naturally comes. But if it's something that's useful, like grihastha, it generally means one who has, a house. Right? So, therefore, the house is not a problem. Now we have to look at how to engage in Krishna's service. Right? Because if it's for us, we have no problem. If it's for Krishna, then we see the problem. Right? So that's the thing. The devotee is willing to take the problem for Krishna. If I'm willing to do that problem for myself, why not be willing to do that for Krishna? So it doesn't change. That's what we mean by the situation doesn't change. We don't mean that you don't change something if it's more favorable. But that will come naturally. As it's for Krishna, then we'll start to see how we've set up the living room. Okay, if I want to have a program with devotees doing kirtan, is it set up for that? Or is it actually just set up for watching the television? Right? You know what I'm saying? If the couch is in the middle of the floor, There's a good thing possibly is the second. If it's set up more towards the edge, then you can have a program. Does that make sense? So all it is we start to adjust it so it works for Krishna. That's what we're doing. Then we're recognizing how everything comes from Krishna, because all the things, we like something for a reason. Why do we like it? Right? It's practical value, it's aesthetics, it's social standing, it's comfort. But all those things are Krishna. Krishna is social standing. He is comfort. Right? He is prestige. He is practicalness. So actually what we like about the things that we're attached to is Krishna, but we think it's the thing, it's self. So it may be the appropriate thing for manifesting that, but the point is it's Krishna's rules, and it's Krishna that's nice. You put together, let's say we put together a nice couch. There's some rules there, right? It has to fit, if it's for Barbie size, it's not going to be comfortable for us. Barbie's great, but we're not. Right? Right? And if it's too big, how do you climb onto it? You need a ladder. That's a trip. Right? An elevator, you got to wait, push the button, wait for it to come down, like that. And then the stupid music in the elevator, so that's also not comfortable. So it has to be the right size. Made out of the right material, right? If you're a yogi, okay, then you make it out of nails. If you're not a yogi, you make it out of something softer. Right? So these are rules. Krishna gives these rules. So when you follow the rules, Krishna manifests that potency. But it's his potency. He is the comfort in it. He is the practicalness in it. But we just have to see, is Krishna involved? How big is that? How big is the comfort? How big is all these different things? Right? And so then if that comfort is useful, we use it. If it's not, then we adjust it. Does that make sense? Yeah. So here is then someone who sees with this vision, that's a devotee. Even they're starting from the platform of having all material desire. But the devotee will naturally progress from that to the liberated to then no desire at all other than to serve Krishna. So the same thing remains. I don't have to change it. That's the beauty of it. That's the universalness of Krishna. That's where it is, but you have to understand it from that point of view. It's not a social thing. It's not some external point. It's the internal mood makes what's important. Because it's about Krishna. It's about that affection for Krishna. So if we do that, give up this attraction to that the material energy itself stands on its own, then we can appreciate Krishna in everything we do. Is there any questions or comments on this? Yes. Your little microphone thingamajig. Microphone thingamajig not working. Okay, so. Okay. Yes.
I have a question which is related to the story of
Kardama Muni. Okay.
So, what is the difference between the stage of pure bhakti and the advanced stage of Ashtanga yoga when you are constantly meditating on the Lord?
What's the difference between the advanced stage of Kardama Muni meditation? Why Kardama Muni? Why not Pipalayana or the four Kumaras? Because if you're talking about meditation or Prahlad Maharaj, Kardama Muni is generally known for his perfection of connecting everything from brahmachari through to sannyas to Krishna. And having, therefore, because it's so nicely done, his son is actually the Supreme Lord himself. That would be the example of Kardama. But if you're talking Ashtanga Yoga, then generally we see is that others are known for that. Pipalayana, the residents of Tapaloka, they're known for meditating upon the Lord. We can take it from there, but you know what I'm saying? That's like saying, I have a question, this Formula One racing driver and things like that, and he wears shoes, so what is your opinion on, devotees wearing shoes? You know what I'm saying? You understand, make the connection strong. Otherwise, Why mention Kardama Muni? Just say, what is the connection between meditation and Ashtanga Yoga and pure devotional service? Okay, because then it's generic, you can apply it to any situation. Otherwise, then we have to qualify how that connects to Kardama Muni, in specific, okay? So, Ashtanga Yoga, see, the thing is you have, just like being a yoga process, you can follow it in connection with devotional service or not. Yoga means devotional service, but it can also be mixed with karma and jnana. Does that make sense? And so, and what do we mean by karma and jnana? Means when you're performing yoga, there's activities of the body, there's activities of the mind and intelligence, right? So now, since those activities are there, if those activities are connected to the Lord for the Lord's satisfaction, it means complete. That's why I mentioned here the complete personality of Godhead. Worship of the personality of God. That's complete. The difficulty is that they'll see the Lord, right? They'll see the activity of karma or jnana, but it's not about pleasing the Lord, it's about themselves. That's when it becomes your karma yoga or jnana yoga then are using bhakti, but it's not prominent. You understand? So and that becomes bhakti misra karma instead of karma misra bhakti. You understand? It means, in other words, if you're going to be technical and use the Ashtanga Yoga and all these terms, then be comfortable with the terms. So then start with all this. Whatever you have, what your doubt is, say that. Don't just throw it out there and I'm supposed to guess out of all the thousands of purports that probably mentions yoga and meditation, which one you're talking about. Right.
When you are at the advanced stage of yoga, so that is equivalent to the smarana, which is one of the practices of devotion.
Yes.
So I was asking that
but you didn't ask that. You just said, what's the difference between meditation and Ashtanga Yoga and pure devotional service? Your intent was to ask that, but unless you say it, I don't know.
But Maharaj, I'm sorry, but at the beginning I said that...
You said Kardama Muni. You know what I'm saying? In other words, at this point in the do you want to get an answer, or do you want to prove that you were right and you said everything perfectly in the beginning? Which do you want to do? Okay, then focus on what it is in the purport that it is that you want to discuss. Don't try to say that you already mentioned that when you never said anything about purport. You just said Kardama Muni, and then Ashtanga Yoga and that. So I'm saying don't take that. That's false ego. What am I doing? I'm explaining to you how to ask a good question so you get an exact answer. You didn't ask a good question, that's why we're talking about it. Ask a good question, get a good answer. Right here in Mayapur. Perfect questions, perfect answers. It's a book. Right? Does that make sense? So, now, what in the purport about that, it is exactly the thing. So yes, it's devotional service. So what's the doubt? What's your doubt? That Ashtanga Yoga, being on the platform that Prabhupada's talking about, and devotional service, it is smaranam. What's the doubt? Yes. Yes. Right.
So at this stage, where do we find that there is a difference between pure devotion and yoga? Because at this advanced stage, where do we find the difference?
And what do you mean by advanced stage of yoga?
In the beginning of yoga...
Not beginning, what's the advanced stage?
Yeah.
Okay, give a full explanation.
So, in the beginning of yoga, we are trying to control our senses, we are trying to refrain from the sense objects, controlling the mind, and then after that stage is happened, then we are focusing the mind on the Lord with that mind. So at that position, what is the difference between the pure smarana process of the yoga?
What's the difference? So when you said it's focusing on the Lord, what do you mean by focusing on the Lord? In yoga?
Yeah, by meditating.
And what do you mean by meditating?
Constantly remembering about the Lord.
And what do you mean by remembering?
Remembering about the Swarupa of the
The Swarupa of the Lord, just the form of the Lord. Okay, so if you're just remembering about the form of the Lord, where are the qualities, where are the pastimes? So in other words, Paramatma is not a complete meditation. You understand? Paramatma means you're just accepting him as the Lord, not as a person. So those yogis who understand they're meditating on the person, that's why Kapila Muni says that the yogi should not just meditate on the form alone. That's actually impersonal. Impersonal doesn't mean it doesn't have a form. That's the Mayavadis. They're stupid. Impersonal means it's generic. If I say Indians, right? There's a billion of them. They're people. But it's not about any particular Indian. So that's generic. That's impersonal. You understand? So it's a subtle difference. We take that as no, it's not. Because you're meditating upon the Lord, but you're just meditating upon him. So all you're doing technically is focusing. Technically, the meditation becomes focused, and that focus becomes intense to samadhi, but technically all you're doing is focusing on one place. So technically it's just dharana. That's why there's a difference between that yogi and a pure devotee. But now if you have a pure devotee who, for their process, is using yoga, they're meditating on the Lord as a person. How nice his lotus feet are, how the devotees are attracted, the sweetness is there, how he even, at the end of, at the annihilation, and he comes as a child floating on the banya leaf to suck on his own toe because it's so tasty, because he wants to see what are the sages. That meditation, that's not different from pure devotional service. So you actually have to be able to distinguish these fine points. It's not that you're meditating. It's that what meditating means. Because otherwise, you see, is that the Buddhists, they just stick a wall or a candle there. You know what I'm saying? So all it is something to focus on. So it's just dharana. And then they intensify their dharana. But samadhi actually means that you're focusing on the Lord. It means you can technically say, yes, they're so absorbed that it's trance, but it's not actually what the trance is for. The trance means you're in trance on the personality of Godhead. So the difference is, this would be the simplest definition. If in your samadhi you're focused on the personality of Godhead, that's non-different. That samadhi is non-different from pure devotion. If you're focused on Paramatma, then there's a difference. Because Paramatma, you're only accepting he's God, not he's a person. So that concept's still within the material world. It'll keep you here. From that meditation, if you're really good at it, you'll merge into Lord Brahma. And then at the end of his life, you'll go to Mahakalapura, which is the Brahman aspect of Mahavishnu. If you see the personal, then you'll go to Mahavishnu. But until you develop that love for him, that attraction, you won't go to Vaikuntha. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay, thank you. See, in other words, at the end, you ask it technically, you get the technical answer you're looking for. Does that make sense? So if you approach like that, then you'll get that. Otherwise, you spend so many minutes going here and there and everything like that. Okay? Something else? Yes. The mic doesn't work. Yeah.
But it might happen in devotional service, one comes to a stage where one is complacent with inattentive rounds of substandard service attitudes. How does this happen?
How does it happen that we might get complacent in devotional service? How do we detect if it's happening? It means we detect it's happening by association with those who are more advanced than us. Because then we start to put together as, hey, why is it when I go to all these other devotees' houses, they don't have a pile of garbage sitting in the middle of the living room? And then if you really were inquisitive, you'd inquire, right? Or if you've, read about it, or Prabhupada talks about don't keep piles of garbage in the middle of the living room, then you go, oh, and then you get rid of the garbage, right? Does that make sense? Yeah, so it's by association. So that's the importance of association, is that we're always reminded of what it is we're trying to do. Complacent, that's going to happen because we get tired or other things distract our attention. You know, if we're complacent, we generally find we're not complacent about everything. Right? You understand? And if we find, oh, we're complacent about everything, then you'll find there's a cause for that complacency about everything. You know? Something didn't go the way we wanted, so we don't think it's worth it anymore. Right? But what we have to be able to distinguish is the devotional service is always worth it. The medium we use for devotional service may be worth it or not. You know what I'm saying? Let's say we have a position and things are going nice, we're fired up, and then something happens in politics, we lose our position or something like that. Then we might become complacent about, you know, material things and spiritual, because we don't say, what's the point? I put in all this work, it's lost. But devotional service is never lost. The material things are always changing, always being lost. You know what I'm saying? So we have to be able to distinguish between what's actual, real, and what we're using in Krishna's service. Right? Just like, let's say, we cook potatoes for the deities. Right? We cook with devotion. So now, tomorrow, where is the devotion still there? Do we still have the benefit of the devotion from cooking the potatoes for Krishna? Yes? Do we still have the potatoes? No. So that's the whole thing. What we're engaging in Krishna's service, that will disappear, it will change. That's the law. But the service by which it was rendered, that's eternal. So when we focus on that, then we can remain inspired despite the externals changing on us. Right? So we can maintain enthusiasm no matter what situation we're in. Does that work? Okay, that's good. Okay. Yes.
You were speaking in your class about, at least it seemed to me, about having material opulences and engaging in the service of the Lord, seeing that it's all for Krishna.
Right.
So my question is that is it healthy for a devotee? I'm a little bit afraid of too much material opulence.
Right.
Because I know that whenever I give them, then I fall in line.
Okay.
So there's fear.
Yes.
And the second thing that comes up in my mind is that because I can't do it, I don't believe anybody else can.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough.
So the point is, you know, when I see a devotee too opulent, I naturally assume he's not. Okay? That's a natural assumption to make.
Yeah. But he's probably very happy in his Maya. That's the... How come I'm not happy in the same Maya, right?
So the question, I'm not asking a question, I'm asking just presenting my...
Okay, yes. The idea is that whatever we find, that's the meaning of nature, guna and karma. So karma will mean what activities we do and what results they get. But guna means there's our nature itself, what qualities we have. So therefore, performing an activity that generates facility, that means then if you're getting more than what you are comfortable with, that means you have the karma. But your guna is fixed at a certain level, so therefore you adjust that karma to that level. So either if it's you're performing your standard work, but it gives more than you require, great. Keep what you need, give the rest in charity. Then you keep yourself at that balanced level. Like that. So that level, everybody has a level like that. You know?
With the tendency, if you get more than you need, then the tendency is immediately not some self-defense strategy.
Yes, but then the point is if you can engage it, you use it. If you can't, you don't. So in other words, Prabhupada gives the definition of being comfortable by you're not uncomfortable. It's not that comfortable means that luxurious or decadence. You know, it means that you're comfortable like that. So what you would consider your average amount of opulence that for you works, we could find another person, for them that's over the top for them, and it's more than they can You know, like if we came up and suddenly, let's say the place you're staying, the facilities you have, which you'll have balance to what's comfortable to you. If we bring somebody off the street there, then they'll think they're the Lord of the universe. You know, like that. So it's what you're comfortable. And someone who has a nature that can handle more than that, what you would have would be less than what they're comfortable with. You know, so therefore, that's the point, is that by performing devotional service, both the guna and the karma improve, right? The point of karma improving is only to get a nicer result for Krishna, but the point is it's about Krishna, so the guna is actually the more important. That will come in devotional service. Then we find then we can use more for Krishna, we use it. But if we find it's not necessary for our situation, then we find we have even more to give away, because our karma gets better, so we have more to give in charity, you know. So in other words, you find your balance. So apply the principle of yourself to everybody. Then that makes it that you don't have a dual perspective. It's that I'm balancing my nature with what I have, and so that's what and that works in what Krishna recommends. So that's what you would expect from others. So if you see they're doing it and they have more, but they are Krishna conscious, then they're doing that. But if they have more and they're not Krishna conscious, then you can understand there's something wrong. But you also have people who have less and they're not Krishna conscious. So in other words, they're doing the same problem. You know, either in the positive means they have more than they should have, or they're hankering so much for more that it's throwing off their devotional service. I mean, this is what you have. Be satisfied. If you're only going to be happy when you have more, but you don't have more, then you'll be unsatisfied. It won't be Krishna conscious either. So either the positive or the negative are the same point.
And what about the mentality that because I can't do it, nobody can?
No, but the principle, that's why I'm saying switch it from the form that it's taken to the principle. So the principle that you balance the guna and karma with Krishna's service, that you can apply yourself diligently to, and you can expect that from others. But the form that they will use, don't judge by that. Judge by, are they Krishna conscious in this situation? You know, then you'll find it's not. So if you find there's lack of Krishna, then you see, is it because of that? Maybe because of bad association, criticizing devotees, or some other anartha. So it may or may not be about, but at least then you can start looking like that. You know what I'm saying? So in other words, it's this balance. That's why Krishna is telling Arjuna, he'll go out to the forest, you know, give up his duties as a Kshatriya, but it still won't work out because he's still going to do the same thing because of his guna and karma. So the same way as everybody has to follow that and engage in Krishna's service. So on the principle, that's what you can look at, and that's what's universal. And the specific detail is, you know, what we have, then we'll consider this is, you know, average and that. But there are places in the world that would be considered, you know, if we go to you know, how you say, you know, some of these places where civil wars are going on, if they had what we had, you know, you'd be president of the country probably, right? But you go to some other places like Monte Carlo, and probably the slums don't even look as bad as what we have. You know, it's like, you know, does that make sense? Yeah. Then it's, yeah. You just switch the perspective. Keep the concept, but switch the perspective. Okay, so we'll end here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki, Jainitai Gaura Premanandi. Okay.